Hey everybody, it's Mr. Carter here. We've spent the past couple days learning about the Great Depression and the New Deal, which was FDR's plan to get America out of the Great Depression. And today what we're going to do is we're going to evaluate, or we're going to decide if FDR's plan, the New Deal, was a success or a failure. So, as you can read here, the New Deal had a mixed success in rescuing the economy. So it did do some good things. It did do some things that it needed to work on. It didn't really improve much. But it also fundamentally changed Americans' relationship with their government. So if you remember, I've said this a couple times, that before the New Deal, if someone, let's say, lost their job, then they were out of luck. It was their problem. But after the New Deal, FDR changed it so that the government was responsible for helping its citizens. It would help people get food. It would, help people get a job, so on and so forth. So again, it fundamentally changed Americans' relationship with their government. And, till this day, we are still using a lot of the programs that were created during the New Deal. So first, we're going to talk about the impact of the New Deal. As you remember from the previous lesson, the New Deal promised 3 R's: relief, recovery, reform. Relief put billions of dollars into the pockets of poor Americans, so that was like the short-term solution, getting people money. That was very successful in that. It gave people a lot of money, it gave people houses, it gave people food so that they could eat. So less people were suffering right away. The New Deal was less successful, however, and delivering economic recovery, which was the medium-term solution, which was getting people jobs again. As you guys are going to see later, the New Deal, unemployment didn't really get that much better under the New Deal. It really gets better during World War II. And the last thing, the reform, which is the long-term solution, which is to make sure that nothing like this ever happened again. It was a long-term fix, so the Depression wouldn't happen again. And those were more successful because we still have some of those programs today, like FDIC and the SEC, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. And as I mentioned before, the New Deal changed the link between the American people and their government. So before the New Deal, if someone lost their job, they were out of luck. It was their problem. After the New Deal, Roosevelt changed that. So Roosevelt believed that government could help businesses and individuals achieve a greater level of economic security. So it was up to the government to help people, not people just to fend for themselves. The New Deal made the American government a lot bigger. Not physically bigger. It didn't make the White House any bigger. It just made that the people, the role in the life of the role of the government in the life of the American people got a lot bigger. And now Americans began to look more to the government for help, as we do nowadays. Things like welfare, unemployment, food stamps, Section 8 housing, and that kind of stuff. Think about it. Before the New Deal, that stuff didn't exist. So the relief, most Americans, got some help from the government. They got a steady paycheck, and then things like Social Security and unemployment came along part of the government. I don't know if you know what Social Security is, but it's when I got my paycheck from the city of Norwalk to be your teacher, every month a certain amount of money is taken out and put into Social Security, and that money is going to be there when I retire. So FDR set up Social Security as a way to help older people who maybe couldn't work anymore. The recovery, as we mentioned, wasn't as successful as the relief. Unemployment was high. But if you remember some of those programs like the TVA and the CCC, they created a lot of jobs, but those jobs were in maintenance and building things. So a lot of things were left, were built during the New Deal, like a lot of roadways, bridges, and dams that was a good part of the New Deal. And which I think is the most important part of the New Deal is reform. So the two institutions that I talked about, or the two programs, were the FDIC and the SEC. What the FDIC did was it promised people that when you put money into the bank, even if that bank went under and lost all your money, the federal government would insure all the money that you had in the bank. So that restored people's confidence in the bank. People were willing to invest in their money in banks again. Because if you remember, during the Great Depression, if a bank failed, which most of them did, it lost everybody's money who had money in that bank. And the second program was the SEC, or the Securities and Exchange Commission, which we still have today. It regulated how the stock market was run to avoid another crash like what happened in 1929. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, but Leonardo DiCaprio's character in that movie, who was a trader on Wall Street, he's getting investigated by the SEC because he's doing things illegally on the stock market. The New Deal was kind of limited in what it could accomplish. So even though it did have a lot of relief programs that gave aid to millions of people, it wasn't meant to be a permanent solution. Also, it didn't give jobs to everybody. As I said, unemployment remained pretty high. And unfortunately, you guys are going to read about this after you're done with this PowerPoint. The New Deal programs did allow for some discrimination against African Americans, Hispanic Americans, women, and others. That's why some people argue that the New Deal was a failure, because yeah, it helped a lot of white people, but it left a lot of black people and Hispanic people and women without any help. So here, the long-term achievements of the New Deal are, like I said before, a lot of bridges, dams, public buildings were made during the New Deal. Actually, I went on a hike last year somewhere in northern Connecticut, and I learned that trail had been created by the CCC, or the Civilian Conservation Corps, which was one of the programs created by FDR. The New Deal created Social Security, which I said before was a way of protecting our older people who can't work. And it gave people hope during the Great Depression. Even though it didn't completely get us out of the Great Depression, it gave people hope, which is something they didn't have before. And as we're going to learn about starting next week, it was really World War II that would really bring America out of the Great Depression. And we're going to learn about that next week. I hope you guys enjoyed that and got something out of it. So now you should be filling out your guided notes. And all right, thank you.